Hey, it's TDA and welcome back to episode 11 of this Dyson Sphere Let's Play. This is the by the book Let's Play where we use blueprints to get shit done really fast. As I hope will become very clear in this episode where we'll actually be heavily using blueprints more so than in any episode before. I've done my homework before we started this episode, so what I did is I built up a lot of miners, and as you know I heavily recommend not trying to use drones to transport especially your lower tier items all across the planet, but instead just use belts. Belts are free, belts are cheap, belts are basically faster actually than drones, and they don't cost any power, so, or at least, well, you need power for the miners of course, but not for the belts themselves. I kind of know what I want to build, so I prepared this little area. If you're playing along with me, it's basically to the west of where we built our base. There used to be a bit of a field of wind turbines here that I took down, replaced it with another row of solar panels over here. So there's now basically two rings, one of wind turbines, another one in the middle of wind turbines and solar panels, and one of just solar panels over here. Not the most consistent maybe, but that's what I happen to have on hand, and I like solar power, especially on planets like this, so yeah, that's what I did. It's not a huge amount of power, if you've watched any other YouTubers play this, you can usually see like triple or even quadruple rings around the planet, all with solar power and wind turbines and stuff like that. I don't think we'll need that much for now, but we'll find out. Yeah, so that's what I did. There was a lot of water here. As you can see, there's a few spots left that we might have to clean up actually. When you're replacing water here, as you can see, these areas where I use the foundation are not like fully covered in foundation. If you do that, you are going to need a lot of foundation. And of course, it's not that hard to build, so by all means, if you want to make the entire planet full of concrete, you do you and go for it. If you want to be a little bit conservative of what you spent your concrete stuff on, or sorry, your foundations on, I recommend just using a single tile and filling it up. It'll take you a lot less foundation. You will still need a lot of soil pile to do it, but yeah, at least you will not be stuck on foundation. I think I used like 3,000 or 4,000 foundations doing it like this. If I would have plastered the entire thing, I would have needed at least 5 times that amount, maybe even 10 times as much. So yeah. Okay, so what do we want to do today? We want to produce even more turbines and magnetic rings. Why? Because we need them for pretty much everything, but most importantly, we need them for belts. And I am now producing a steady amount of belts thanks to the previous episode's little build, but we have a lot of copper and iron on this planet. And even though this is not going to be our main planet where we do our main production, as we said in the last episode, if you watched that, where we didn't actually build anything, we talked about scheduling and planning. That's going to be the third planet that we haven't visited yet. But we have plenty of iron ore and copper here as well, so we might as well put it to use. Speaking of which, this is where our new blueprints come in. I have, and I call this the Mega Iron build, a few little blueprints that use a lot of smelters, a lot of stuff. They're mostly consisting out of planetary logistic centers rather than the interplanetary ones. If you, of course, want to switch that up, you can. But this is going to be the general build. I recommend, and if you watched my guide on planetary logistic centers, building them in such a way that it actually makes sense. So similar to how you would want to build smelters and assemblers that close to each other that you are linking to each other, I also recommend, if you go for this kind of modular build, that you use sort of the same approach. So in this case, if you remember our little starter base, we used iron, we used copper, and then let's hop. It's actually interesting how the ghost buildings are actually keeping me in place. We used iron, we used copper, and we used magnets. And if you've been following along with the first episodes, you kind of know what to expect, because these three are the main components for circuit boards, which I have here. These are actually a little bit smaller, so let's make sure we don't use more space than we need. So we have cogs. And this might give me a problem if I remember correctly. Yes. So if, like you can see, I made this blueprint apparently in a place where that's not completely aligned with where I'm building it right now. So this actually won't stick. If you run into that problem, I have basic blueprints where I am basically that I made in such a way that they should allow you to place them pretty much anywhere. So these are empty blueprints, by the way, so you will need to set the recipes on these, but they're a little bit easier to place down, and I really couldn't be arsed to go around and changing all of these blueprints just so I could stick them to a specific type. It doesn't take that much work to set the blueprints. You only need to set the recipe, everything else is already done. Okay, so cogs. That was going to be cogs. Then I need circuit boards. And of course that doesn't fit either. But then again, circuit boards have 2 inputs, so you do need to make sure you are using the correct one. It should be this one. There we go. Magnetic coils. We're using these ones, we might as well do it like this. These are also 2 inputs. There we go. And then that will turn into engines. Where do I want to put those? Decisions. Because we have the oil over there. This is a little annoying. Let's not try to push it, let's just put it over here. And of course that doesn't work either. With the engines one, remember that engines use 2 inputs as well. Sorry, 3 inputs, that's what I meant. So you will need to use the interplanetary version. And I have the planetary ones over here and I have the interplanetary ones. And if I did everything correct, and of course I do need to remove the little drops of water over there, then we should be able to place a 3 input assembler section over there. So that should be making engines, and let's just put down 2 of those actually. I will be running out of stuff as we make this, by the way, but that's not a big problem. And then what's the last thing we need? We need turbines, and the turbines are only 2 inputs. Let's see if it will actually let me place down the turbine production as I thought it up initially. This one is a little longer than my normal builds, apparently. Doesn't really matter. We can free up a little space over here, giving you a little insight on how I fill this up. The only downside of doing it like this is pretty much the issue that we just saw. You might skip some little ponds here and there that might require you to backtrack. But now the real question is, does this want to be put out? This one does. Thank you. And then, last but not least, we have the magnetic rings. Can we put that one here? Yes, we can. Okay, great. There you go. We just set up this entire area worth of construction, and now we're actually just in a place where we actually need to go and build this. I won't have you sit through the entire building of this entire area, but I do want to talk a little bit about how to connect this all up and be power efficient about it. So don't go anywhere. I will go and have this be built, and then we'll meet back over here. And welcome back. Here we are, all done. We've built all the mining facilities, smelters I should say. We built all the secondary facilities over here. We have the engines over here, the turbines over here, and then finally we have some graphite in the corner and the magnetic rings over here. The magnetic rings are already almost topped off. I set it to 2000, that's more than we need. Why did I do that? Because I'm hoping for this turbine to stack up a little bit as well, so we have a bit of overflow there. At the moment we're still buffering and basically creating more stuff, but of course there's only a limit to how much this can buffer, and you can see there's still a few producing, but they won't be able to get anywhere, so we should be having a steady inflow of turbines getting stuck here as well. The main problem with the turbines is that we need more engines, and the main problem with engines is that they need a lot of stuff. So all in all, pretty good, pretty nice. We are actually a little bit low on iron, if you can believe it, but that's because we're using it here, we're using it here, we're using it here, we're using it here, and we're using, well no, we're not using it here, but there's several places where we're using iron, so that's a problem. As always, you can never have enough iron. And to be honest, part of the problem might be, because as you can see this is actually stacking up, that I don't have drones in here. So this is a reason why putting drones in here might not be the worst of ideas. So this will be an extra supply of drones going out. Alright, so what are we trying to accomplish, and what are we trying to do, and how did I do it? As you can see, I built all the things that we discussed before the break, but I also kind of put a little bit of tricks here and there to optimize it even further. So the iron, copper and magnets are all belted into the next parts of the facilities. So for example, I have iron going in here to make cogs. All the cogs we need, we actually don't need that much of that. I have some iron going into the circuit boards as well. We don't need any of those at the moment, but it's nice to have them since we're producing everything we need for them. We actually have the, what are these called? Magnetic coils over here. We need a lot of those, so that you can never have enough of those either. As you can see, they're still full on producing, and then we're transporting them onwards. The cogs go into the engines. They go into the engines over here, and this is one of the tricks I want to show you, because initially I thought about splitting these. As you can see, I actually still have the splitter over here, but I ended up doing it slightly different, and actually all the iron and all the cogs I don't need over here are automatically being transported in the next one. That's right next to it. So this is just an overflow, basically going from one to the other, making sure that I have quite a lot of production going in here. The engines over here, I actually flipped one of those belts around. As you can see, this is actually transporting them out. This side is just transporting them in, this side is transporting them out, the other belt is tying onto that. And then these belts are automatically tying onto this as well. I flipped this belt around as well. So we have engines, basically 3 belts of engines going in here straight into the turbines. And then the last part of engines are actually going into this manually, but that's okay because, manually I mean the normal way, but they are going in here and straight out again because I flipped around the belt. That way all the engines go straight into the turbine production without any drones being involved and draining our power. In terms of the turbines, I don't think I did anything special here. Let me just double check. Oh no, I did do one more thing. I actually flipped around one of the belts here again so that this is actually going out. And then as you can see, this is going straight into the next part of the production, which is the magnetic rings. And then the magnetic rings over here, I topped those off at 2000 or apparently 2100. And the only thing we're actually using these on are the production of our belts. But if you look at our earlier setups, this was going really slow, and we will be needing this for quite a few other things. And as I mentioned, as you can see now, the storage is full on turbines, so the turbines will be stacked up. And these turbines will actually be transported elsewhere, because we don't just need turbines for the magnetic rings. You need turbines for a lot of other things, one of them being, and I'll fly over there quickly to show you what I mean. Should be over here, yeah. Here we go. We actually need them for our vessels as well. So now we have some turbines going in here as well. I make sure I kept this off, but there should be some drones incoming now with, or apparently they're going to pick it up, but some drones going to pick up some turbines over here, so that we have a steady inflow of rockets, or what are these, heavy thrusters, I think, reinforced thrusters, there we go. They have everything they need at the moment except for turbines, and that way we will make sure we're actually still producing these. Now, as you can see, we are also lacking processors, so whenever you optimize one part of your facility, then something else will be popping up. So the next thing we probably want to do is make sure we go to our other planet, kind of optimize whatever we have over there, and then we should get on to optimizing our yellow resource. As you can see, our yellow resource is going extremely slow at the moment. We don't actually need the stuff yet that we're researching, but of course this is not going to be our only yellow research for very long. The nice thing about the setup that we made, and that was part of the reason I also made the circuit boards over there, is that we also now have all the ingredients we need for the blue science. Didn't actually build the blue science yet, but as you can see, we have a maximum amount of foils over here, we have a maximum amount of circuit boards over here, so all we need to do is pop down a blue science, maybe we can actually put it over here, production facility, and then we have blue science going. So that means that as soon as we optimize our processors a little bit, and I think we should do that in the next episode, and after that we can start really working on optimizing everything related to oil, because again, this is the only planet in our system with oil. So that means we want to be making plastic here, want to be making graphene, graphite, acids, etc. Basically everything that comes from oil, that's what we want to be producing on this planet. So that should be maybe the next 1 or 2 episodes where we optimize that. I think I'll just briefly show you what I did on the other planet in terms of setting up the what are they called, processor facilities, and then we can dive straight into the oil in the next episode. Alright, don't forget to subscribe if you like this content, and I'll see you in the next one.